What's up all my Nicopediacs? We released a video a few weeks ago called 27 Historical Lies. And the response was so good, I wanted to do another video very similar to it. So today, I present to you 27 famous lies. You may have heard this in grade school, that the Great Wall of China is visible from outer space. The idea started because in 1938, Richard Halliburton wrote in his book, The Second Book of Marvels, that the only visible man-made object that could be seen from the moon was the Great Wall of China. But at its widest point, the wall is only 30 feet across. This would mean that highways, buildings, and every football field ever made ever would also be visible from the moon, which is 239,000 miles away. And let me tell you, they're not. She may have loved pumpkin spice lattes, but she certainly did not have glass slippers. More than 500 versions of the classic fairy tale Cinderella exist dating back to the 9th century, and none of them have her wearing glass slippers. Instead, they have our princess wearing magic slippers made of gold, silver, or rare earth metals covered in gems, but never common silica glass. This mistaken history started in 1697 when writer Charles Perrault mistakenly wrote verre, meaning glass, instead of verre, referring to the original story having Cinderella wearing pantoufles, and verre, pantoufles, and verre, or slippers of white squirrel fur, which I think is actually pretty cool. I don't know why they changed it. Slippers of white squirrel fur, pretty neat. I don't think you really need to go the glass route. The forbidden fruit. According to the book of Genesis, Adam and Eve were evicted from paradise not even on their second week for eating the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden. There is actually no mention of an apple. Some scholars actually think it was a fig or possibly wheat or grapes. Princess Anastasia survived the brutal assassination of her family. Totally false. It made an awesome Disney story, and a fun fact, I'm actually named after Anastasia's parents, Tsar Nicholas and Tsarina Alexandra. Anyways, for close to 100 years, it was thought that the princess escaped. However, in 2007, a genetic test confirmed she did not survive the massacre. Paul Revere never yelled, "The British are coming!" The actual exchange happened between a guard at the house Samuel Adams and John Hancock were staying at because the guard thought he was being too loud. The actual quote was, quote, "Noise! You'll have noise enough before long. The regulars are coming out." Also, there were 2 additional riders that joined Paul, all of whom were arrested and released on their way to Concord. Not so much history, but we've all been told this. Diamonds are made from compressed coal. Not really at all, actually. It's true that diamonds and coal are both made with carbon, but it doesn't come from coal. Coal is formed near the surface from plant matter, while diamonds are formed in the Earth's mantle, over 90 miles closer to the core, and they're carried up to the crust during volcanic eruptions. However, a weird bit of internet knowledge, I learned that you can make diamonds out of anything that has a carbon source, even your cremated body. Humans evolved from apes that we see in zoos today. This is totally not true, and certainly a misnomer. This just isn't how evolution works. Evolution has the strongest, most adaptable species live on, while the inferior ones die off. We didn't evolve from the apes that you see in zoos, but rather we share a common ancestor. We then separated genetically about 13 million years ago. The founding fathers were all Christian. False! They were more like Christian-ish, kind of, sort of. Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin were believed to be deists, people who believe that there is a God, but purely on rational grounds, reject supernatural and stress the importance of ethical conduct. George Washington followed pantheism, a religion that says the universe is God and that God is the universe. John Adams was a Unitarian, who believed in Christian values, but that Jesus was human and not divine himself, which does not follow the Trinity. Alexander Hamilton was a legit Christian, but only later on in his life after his son died. Emperor Nero played the fiddle while Rome burned. Actually, he was 30 miles away, as was reported by Tacitus, a historian at the time. Also, the fiddle didn't exist during that time period, so then there's that part of the information that doesn't make any sense. People during the Middle Ages had a low life expectancy. Not true. While it's lower than today's standards, people lived well into their 60s. Marco
Polo
introduced pasta to Italy. Not the case here. The story goes that Marco
Polo
brought back pasta from his travels to China. Most historians believe that Arabs introduced pasta to Italy in the 7th century during the conquest of Sicily. This happened close to 600 years before Marco
Polo
was even born. Mrs OLearly's cow kicked over a lantern which started the Great Chicago Fire. A ton of caffeine. A story published in the Chicago Republican stated Mrs. O'Leary was milking her cow in her barn and that the cow kicked over the lamp and boom! Massive fire! All of Chicago gone. Gone. Fire. While the fire did start in her barn, she always said her entire family was asleep while the fire broke out. Years later, in 1893, the reporter Michael you might want to tell the truth, admitted he had made up that part of the story. Pilgrims do not wear black clothing with square white collars and cuffs. They actually wore bright solid colors like red, yellow, green, blue, and purple. Puritans were the ones wearing this black and white wardrobe. And of the 104 passengers on the Mayflower, only 2 were Puritans. George Washington did not have wooden teeth. His dentures were made of gold, hippo ivory, lead, and animal and human teeth, which, if you ask me, is a lot cooler. I don't know why, the rumor, started with wooden teeth. That's, so boring. Benjamin Franklin did not propose the turkey to be used as the national symbol over the bald eagle. He did sit on a commission that tried to design the US seal after the Declaration of Independence, but his idea was to use an image of Moses. He did object to the eagle, however, it was in a letter to his daughter and was never public. The historical Buddha was not fat. The chubby Buddha is a 10th century Chinese folk hero by the name of Budai. Speaking of religion, nowhere in the Bible does it say that exactly 3 magi came to visit baby Jesus, nor were they kings or rode on camels. The idea came from the 3 gifts described in the Bible and an artistic depiction of the Nativity created in the 3rd century. The black belt in martial arts does not exactly mean expert level or mastery. It was introduced for judo in the 1880s to indicate competency of all the basic techniques of the sport. Going beyond the black belt varies among different martial arts, with some higher ranks having red, white, and solid red belts at the top of the ranking order. 420 did not originate from the Los Angeles Police Code for marijuana use. In California, Police Code 420 means juvenile disturbance. The use of 420 started in 1971 at San Rafael High School, where it indicated a specific time a group of students would smoke under a statue of Louis Pasteur. The word "the" was never pronounced or spelled "ye" in Old or Middle English. Well, that certainly clears up ye old situation. Your veins are blue because deoxygenated blood is blue. Totally false. I certainly remember hearing this as a kid growing up, and it's just not true. When light filters through your skin, the low frequency wavelengths, like red, are refracted by the pigments in your skin and fat layers, leaving mostly blue light to reflect back to your eyes. An albino person, someone with little to no pigmentation in their skin, will usually have red veins. Also, if you've ever given blood or had blood taken out of you, the needle is a vacuum with no oxygen and your blood is red, not blue. It would only be blue if you're an octopus. Meteorites are not always hot when they reach the Earth's surface. Some of them are even found with frost on them. As huge chunks of rock floating in outer space, they're well below freezing. As they enter the Earth's atmosphere, the outer layer that is warmed melts off, leaving only a cold rock hitting the Earth. Speaking of meteors, when space rocks or space shuttles re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, it's not primarily friction that makes them heat up, but rather the adiabatic compression of air in front of the object. If you compress a gas, the process gives off heat, and that's what's happening in front of the space shuttle. It's compressing the air, and it's getting really hot. Still on the space kick, the actual color of the sun is white, not yellow. We only see it as yellow here on Earth because our nitrogen atmosphere scatters light in a way that we see it as yellow. It's also the same reason we see the sun as orange and red during sunset. Bulls are not enraged by the color red. When it comes to bullfighting, the bull perceives the guy throwing spears at him as a threat and charges him, as would anything or person or creature. Cattle are actually dichromats, meaning they only have 2 types of color sensing receptors. So red does not look particularly bright to them. Dogs do not sweat by salivating. Dogs, in fact, do have sweat glands and sweat through their foot pads. However, they do primarily regulate their body temperature through panting. There is no evidence that eating less than 1 hour before swimming leads to a greater chance of cramps or drowning. One theory is that public pools came up with this concept to ramp up candy and food sales during their forced breaks. Bonus fact! Oh yeah. Drinking alcohol does not make the body warmer. Alcohol actually works as a vasodilator, allowing blood to reach the skin surface more easily, making you feel warmer. However, this can lower the core body temperature over time by allowing a high rate of heat transfer with the cold environment. So if you're going to the tundra, don't drink the whiskey. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. In the comment section below, let me know what fact blew your mind the most. Like which one you're like, what? No, I totally knew that was right and now it's not. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. We have new videos every Tuesday and Friday. On Tuesdays, we have videos like this one. And we also have experiments and Wikipedia originals. And on Friday, we have a series called Will It Blow, where we blow stuff up out in the desert. And I'll see you really soon.